Hi everybody. So I just finished grading the half drafts, and before I release the scores, I wanted to go ahead and make a little bit of an announcements video or an update video here and touch on some points where I think that we all need to focus our attention when we're revising our half drafts and turning them into full drafts. There are issues that I noticed pretty much across the board, if not with everyone's paper, with a good majority of them, so I thought that it would be beneficial to provide some more detailed feedback on those issues in a format that we can all view. So the thing I'm going to be looking at here or referring to is the rubric for the full rough draft and the final paper, and that is located in this week's module. And what you'll see when you open this document is, of course, the full rough draft assignment and the checklist for the full rough draft and the final paper, which I went over in this week's announcements video. So I'm not going to touch on that too much. But what I'm going to talk about here is this rubric. So one of the things that I noticed that a lot of us are having issues with is that we still don't have well-developed thesis statements. Or the thesis statements that we came up with for our outlines are not appearing in our half drafts. And as a result, the whole paper is sort of coming apart. The wheels are sort of coming off. It's very difficult to have a point or a goal or make a claim when you don't have a strong, well-developed thesis. So if I made a comment about you're not having a thesis or you're not making a point or a goal, you may want to go back and take a look at your thesis statement and make sure that it really is solid. And therefore, you're able to create a body of work that is going to prove or support your thesis. The next one is organization. And I didn't see too many organization issues. I did see a couple papers that kind of wander around. But again, with a more well-developed thesis statement, organization will probably be easier to achieve. Level of depth and development, as well as audience awareness, were big issues with our half drafts. I saw a lot of papers that were very simplistic. They were either writing in a very simplistic way, so using basic definitions, providing background information, and really staying on the surface of the discussion. And then I saw a lot of papers that just were not positioned papers. They were not positioned research papers. They were more high school level research papers. Here's a problem. Here's how it came to be. And there wasn't really a point to the paper other than to provide information about a problem. So you want to remember, and again, this goes back to having a well-developed thesis statement, you want to remember that this is a positioned paper. You have to be making a point of some kind. And do remember as well, you are writing for those working in your field. You're writing for professionals working in your field. You're not writing for your fellow students. You're not writing for me. So you should be writing with a certain level of complexity and a certain tone. So my suggestion, if you got comments on either of these areas, is to take a look at some of your sources, okay? And make sure that you're using your sources as a template. Follow the tone, follow the level of development, follow the structure, follow the voice that they're using. Use them as a template, okay? So make sure that you are matching the tone, the style, the writing of those working in the field, and that you are diving into your problem or issue in a complex way. You're not just exploring it in a research paper way. If you have questions on that, if you're not understanding what I'm saying or where your paper is lacking in that particular area, please feel free to send me an email. I'm happy to discuss that with you. It may also be a good thing to discuss with the WRC, either in person or through their Moodle page, which is also linked in this week's module. Another big issue that I saw with a few people is source use. I saw several papers that had sources that are not academic. Websites are not acceptable sources for this paper. There is a reason that we have been exploring peer-reviewed journals and locating academic articles all semester, and that is because those are academic sources and they're what needs to be used as sources for this paper. So if you included websites or non-academic sources, some newspapers or not peer-reviewed publications, I made note of that, and you do need to make sure that you go through and not only find sources that are considered academic, but also remove those non-academic sources from your paper. Keep in mind, too, that any information that comes from an outside source has to be cited. If you don't, it is considered plagiarism. So any statistics, any claims, any outside information, even if it's something that you feel you didn't necessarily read in a specific source, it's just something that you, quote, know, you probably want to make sure to go through and cite it from somewhere, unless it is truly general knowledge. And by general knowledge, I mean definitions of words, 2 + 2 = 4, the Declaration of Independence was written in 1776. I mean, really, truly general knowledge. But for example, saying something like research shows that drug abuse is directly correlated to violent crimes. Well, where did you hear that? I mean, it needs to be cited. I did make note of anybody's draft who had an issue with this. Please make sure that you do fix it. Remember that any plagiarism on the final paper, whether intentional or inadvertent, does result in a score of 0 on the final paper. So you want to make sure that there's no inadvertent plagiarism. Pay attention. Look very carefully for any place where I've noted that you need an in-text citation. And if you have questions or you're not sure if something falls under the general knowledge umbrella, again, please be sure to shoot me an email. And last but not least, there was a lot of professionalism issues with these half drafts. I realize that they are just drafts. However, some of them needed enough proofreading that reading them and understanding what you were trying to say was difficult. So please be sure that you're proofreading work before you submit it, regardless of whether they're drafts or not. It's still academic writing, and they do need to be carefully proofread, particularly for syntax and mechanical issues, so that I'm able to understand what it is you're trying to say. So that's sort of it for big picture issues. One other thing that I'll note is when you open up the copy of your half draft that I've attached for you, you may see on the references page, you may see where I've highlighted a source and then put a number next to it. And that was really more for my purposes, so I could see how many academic sources you had and how many of those are counting towards the 6 that need to be 10 pages or more. So that's there, for you to look at, but also it was just basically for me to be able to double check and see where everyone is with sources. So I hope that the feedback that I provided you in this video have given you a little bit of understanding about where your rough draft score, where your half draft scored and where they need improvement as you start working into the full rough draft and the final paper. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know, and I strongly, strongly encourage you all to use the WRC, to come talk to me during office hours, or do anything else you need to get assistance with your full rough draft and your final paper. I hope you have a wonderful week, and again, just let me know if there are any questions. Thank you.